Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mondays with Mundy. That's me, Jim Mundy, the historian for the Union League Legacy Foundation at the Union League of Philadelphia in beautiful South Broad Street. When we began this series of episodes a few weeks ago, we started the series with a program on the League's commissioned portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, the life portrait by Dalton Marchant. And so today's episode, we're going to visit the other great presidential portrait in the League's collection, the one of George Washington by Thomas Sully. So here goes. Before we get too deep in the weeds, though, let me pull up a PowerPoint. See if I can do it this time. All right, looking good. All right. We got it, bingo, hot dogs. All right, let's go. All right, so our subject is Thomas Sully. Thomas Sully was born in Lincolnshire, England in 1783. His parents, Matthew and Sarah, were actors. But in 1792, they moved the whole family to Charleston, South Carolina, where an uncle owned a theater that could provide steady employment for the Sully family, and that was important. So the Sullys are now Americans. And within a matter of years, just 2 years, in 1794, it's clear that young Tom has some artistic talent, and his older brother Lawrence begins to tutor him as an artist. And the tutelage worked very well, because at the age of 18 in 1801, just a few years later, young Thomas is already considered a professional artist. So clearly he had some talent. All right, so 4 years later, though, his older brother Lawrence would die, and young Thomas would marry his brother's widow, Sarah, and he would adopt her 9 children, and they would go on themselves to have 9 additional children. So the Sullys had a big family. 1804 to 1806. 1806, Philadelphia is no longer the capital of the country politically, but it is still the heart of the social and cultural throbbing of America at this point in time. And if you're an artist, a portrait artist especially, you have to go where the money is, and so they packed up and moved to Philadelphia, and that's where the Sullys would live until actually Thomas Sully would die in 1872. All right, so the Sullys are now Philadelphians as well. Beginning in 1806, Sully would study under some of the greatest living artists at the period, Gilbert Stuart, Benjamin West, Bass Otis, people who had great influence in his style and his abilities. So Sully, in the time period that he was in Philadelphia, would become not only the city's greatest 19th century artist, but also arguably one of the greatest in America at the same time. So, and here's a good example, this self-portrait in 1821. I mean, you can see he's just full of confidence. I mean, he's letting you know that he's an artist and he knows how to paint. And that's what's great about this portrait. Very handsome young man too at the same time. And here we'll see him as an older man, circa 1850, same curly hair, same confidence, just staring right at the viewer of the painting saying, I've been doing this for a long time and I can keep on doing it as well. We have another painting, another photograph actually of Sully in 1869. Still got that curly hair. And this is how members of the League would have known Sully, all right, at that point in time in his age. So where does the story go from here? It goes to 1832, when American President Andrew Jackson vetoed a bill to recharter the second bank in the United States. In 1833, the federal government withdrew all of its money from the bank, and it would cause the bank to collapse by 1836. And in 1837, this would create a major, what they called panic. We would call it a depression. And the depression would last until 1843, 1844. And as you can imagine, in depressions, money is tight and people don't spend it on portraiture. And so Thomas Sully had, as he said himself, a lot of time on his hands. And so in 1841, he decided to paint the portrait that we now have in the League's collection. And boy, did he paint a portrait. The canvas itself is 11 feet high by 9 feet wide. When you add in the frame, which is another foot wide on each of the 4 rails, it is 13 feet in height by 11 feet in width, and it is magnificent, all right? So Sully would paint it between 1841 and 1842, finished in November of 1842, and it appears it was on exhibit at the Artist Fund Society exhibit in 1843, and it was called General George Washington reviewing his troops in 1794. So after that, our story goes to 1862, and that is when the Union League of Philadelphia is organized on December the 27th. They have rented the old Hartman Coon Mansion at 1118 Chestnut Street as their first clubhouse. And they want to celebrate General George Washington's birthday on February the 22nd of 1863. These two gentlemen, both founding members of the League, James L. Claghorn on the left and Ferdinand J. Dreer on the right, were both patrons of Sully's. Claghorn himself was an auctioneer and an art collector, probably had the largest private art collection in the city at the time, over 300 paintings, tons of portraits by Sully. Dreer, on the right-hand side, was a jeweler, goldsmith, assayer, and also an art collector at the same time, portraiture especially, and especially those of Sully. So they both knew Thomas Sully. And they knew that Sully had this painting because he hadn't been able to sell it after all these years. Even in the 1840s, he was asking $2,000 for it. And with the Depression going on, obviously nobody was going to buy it. Average annual income was only $200 a year. So $2,000 was a small fortune, even for the 1840s. And what would happen is that nobody bought it. Sully still has it in 1862, and he's willing to lend it to the League for this occasion. Painting arrives in February, all right? And again, we don't know where it hung in the clubhouse itself. The occasion itself was held on Monday, February the 23rd, because they would not have held something like that on a Sunday at that point in time. It was the actual date of Washington's birthday. And so these two gentlemen are responsible for acquiring the first painting by loan in the League's collection. And as you can imagine, though, the members fell in love with the painting, and why not? It's a phenomenal painting. And these two gentlemen then convinced Sully to sell it to the League. And at this point, the painting was valued at approximately $1,500. Sully cut the price in half to $750 because Sully himself was politically sympathetic to the Union League itself. He was involved in Whig politics in Philadelphia in the 19th century. Of course, the Whigs become Republicans in 1854, and he is still involved in Republican politics. And so it was a natural fit for both Sully and the portrait itself. And in its gratitude of his willingness to sell the painting to the League gave Sully the freedom of the League House and eventually membership. So this would become the first painting purchased by the Union League of Philadelphia. Dreer and Claghorn convinced 600 members to donate, 60, no, I had it right. No, I had it wrong. 60 members to donate $10 apiece. You get $600. The board donated another $150, and they purchased the painting from Thomas Sully for $750. So we've now heard about the first painting commissioned by the League, Lincoln's portrait, and the first painting purchased by the League, the one by Washington and Sully. And what does it look like? There we go. Great painting. And here you can see just even on a screen, you can see the massive size of this painting itself, right? And frame as well. Sully designed and made, in some cases, his own frame. So when the League moved to its first official clubhouse, what we think now is the Broad Street building in 1865, the painting came over with it. And to the best of my knowledge and research, it was hung at the top of the stairs on the second floor outside the library, what we today think of as the McMichael Room. Any of you members to go and see if you can find that painting and look at it and understand just exactly what's going on. It's a great painting. Now, one more piece of the story, all right? 1982, it's Washington's 250th birthday party, anniversary, if you will. And the US Mint, based in Philadelphia, is responsible for designing all American currency, paper, coins, whatever. And they had a new engraver, chief engraver, Elizabeth Jones. And she was telling me the story one day. She was new to Philadelphia, but she had to create this coin, this commemorative $50, and she had no idea how she would do it. And she's visiting the Union League for the first time, and she's walking up the Broad Street staircase, the grand staircase. And after you turn on the landing to go to the second floor, there's the portrait that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in front of you. And she said she knew right away exactly what she was going to do with the coin. And as you can see here in the illustration, that's Sully's portrait, George Washington. So I'll go back to it one more time. There you go. I mean, the horse, the head. The only thing different is Washington's right arm. Clearly on the coin, she needed to have space for the word liberty. So the right arm is now resting on Washington's right leg. There you go. So it goes to show you that art can always influence us over time. So I hope everybody's enjoyed this, hopefully quick romp through art history at the League. Again, I encourage you to take a look at the painting the next time you're in the League House itself. It is just magnificent. It was cleaned recently, so it looks really good. And enjoy one of the great pieces of American art. So I hope you'll join us next week for another thrilling adventure as we go through Mondays with Mundy. All right, so in the meantime, I hope everybody just take care and stay well, and we'll see you in a week's time. Thank you very much.